Hi guys, it is Tuesday, April 21st, and welcome to script writing. I posted a video last week called Keep It Simple. I noticed that only one of you has watched it. I think you might find it pretty helpful, and I'm basically talking about keeping your story simple and your characters complicated. I'm talking about subtext. I'm talking about a lot of different things to where you don't overwrite your script. Y'all need to remember that when you're writing a script for the screen, you need to keep it concise. You need to only give what is necessary for the reader of the script to understand what is going on and to visualize the story. This document is the blueprint for the film that's going to be made. So there's yes, there's simplicity, of course, there's subtext, of course, that your audience can glean from what is going on or what was kind of sort of said. Go back and watch that video. I also posted a written lecture called Narrative Screenwriting Overview. Now, if you look at eCampus over here, I talk about how, we use the Fabula cards to help develop your stories, and that we needed to get into how to format the screenplays. Now, formatting is so important, particularly with screenwriting. So there's a variety of things you got to talk about when you're talking about screenwriting. Format is the most important part. Yes, you need to learn how to write narratively. Yes, you need to learn how to write concisely and how to develop a character, what the structure of the story is, and all that good stuff, and we've kind of already covered that in bits and pieces here and there. But it's the format that I want you to walk away from this class knowing. The format is what's going to tell anybody you submit that script to whether or not you're an amateur or not. The format is what is used to help produce the film. It's not just the slug lines and how many slug lines you got to count to know at least how many camera movements you're going to have, but how many pages do you have per scene? That's going to tell the producer how long it's going to take to shoot this film. The script is also going to include absolutely everything that's going to be needed so that the producer and the director know what they need to do to make this story happen. So what I'm going to do real quick, I noticed that I feel like a lot of you are using the free software, the free script writing software. And the problem with that, yes, it'll put everything, marginally speaking, into the right place. Like if you got slug line, this, by the way, is the slug line or the scene heading. And it's got to be right here. The action description's got to be right here. And you may be like, Ms. Vance, we already know all this. Well, clearly you do not. So I'm just going to go over that with you again. So let's talk about that real quick, that slug line. What is involved in a slug line? 3 things. Whether you're inside or outside, the location, and what time it is. And that's it. Every bit of that on the slug line needs to be in capitalized letters, all in caps. Now I'm going to show you a script. If you've not seen Godless, it's on HBO. It's a mini-series, and it is an extremely well done mini-series. It's well written. This is the script to the pilot episode. This right here that I'm showing you right here, that is a scene heading, aka slug line. You will notice that it's got an EXT period. It's either going to be inside or it's going to be outside. So you got INT for interior or EXT for exterior. If you have a scene that occurs both in and outside, like say inside of a car, or they're walking through a house and now they're outside, it's still the same scene, you could put exterior/interior, or the other way around, depending on where you start. The next thing that follows is, where are we? In this case, we are at Bill McNew's place. parentheses label. They have to, for whatever reason they are giving us that information, a dash and day, because it is during the day. Now, I want to read this action description to you real quick. Modest, comma, with a few horses and some livestock. What are they talking about? They're talking about Bill McNew's place. McNew rides up and pulls his saddle. He sets the horse loose in the pasture and wearily walks to the house. All of these things we can see. He pauses in front of his porch and looks down. No shadow. A floorboard creaks. You notice that this is in capitalized letters. The reason being is because it is a sound effect that somebody's going to have to add in later. So it's in caps. And he puts his hand on his gun and turns to see a curly-haired little girl of 2, Trudy, which is also in capitalized letters. From now on, Trudy will not be in caps. This is how I know that some of you are using your software, but you're just using it indiscriminately and allowing it to make decisions for you. Not every time you put a character's name in the action description is it going to be in caps. The only time it's in caps is when it's the first time you see this person being mentioned. But you might also notice that there is a description of Trudy, a curly-haired little girl of 2. Her arms are outstretched, taking a couple of unsteady steps towards him. He just watches her toddle right into his legs and grab hold. He stares down at her a moment, doesn't move. When she looks up at her father, it's with the pliant gaze of someone not quite right. We can actually see this happen on screen. The woman's voice, you going to say hello? McNew looks up and sees his sister, Mary Agnes McNew, all in caps, sitting inside cleaning a rifle. She's a handsome woman near 40. The point I'm trying to make here is that anytime you mention somebody that's new, you need to provide at least some type of description of who this person is, what they look like. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't say she's white or African American or mixed or anything like that. It doesn't say that she's heavy. It doesn't say that she's tall or short or anything like that. It just says she's handsome. And she's near 40. Good enough. What's the difference? She can't understand a word I say. Now, why is that? Does Mary Agnes go into why? Does any of the action description explain why? No, there is no need. The audience understands this child doesn't understand a word that he says. You don't have to give any more information than is necessary. Your audience will love you if you allow them to fill in the blanks. Don't give your audience absolutely every single thing that's going on, the backstory. Why isn't Trudy able to talk at this age? Why is Mary Agnes living with her brother? Why is any of this stuff going on? We don't need to know. Okay. Next scene heading is interior, Bill McNew's house, same. That's because it's the same day, supposedly. It's day. We're in his house. It's a simple cabin with a bed in one corner. McNew peers into the sleeping loft where there are 2 more pallets. Where's William at? School. It's Monday. He nods, hangs his hat on a peg, turns to face his sister, sees now that she's wearing pants. You notice that pants is in capitalized letters. Why do you think that is? I'll tell you. Because it's important to the story. So earlier we had floorboard creaks. This gives him a reason to grab his gun and turn around, so it's important. But it's also going to need to be added in, so it's an important production element. Pants is capitalized because that's important for her character. So she's wearing pants, a man's hat, boots. He watches her wipe the gun barrel down with a white rag. ... Them Albert's breeches you got on? Not anymore. You wearing his hat too? In parentheticals, she turns and pats the pistol and his rig. Now, this is necessary. These parentheticals are necessary for us to understand the action of the character while she's saying what she's saying. Okay? That's the only time you use parentheticals. That's what that is. You want to tell me why? Someone's got to look after things around here. You look ridiculous. You ever worn a dress, Bill? No, and neither do I intend to. Well, you oughta. You oughta right now put on a dress and put on a damn. She indicates the white rag she's using. Corset while you're at it. McNew looks closely at the white rag as she rubs the barrel down. There's a strap hanging from it. Strap? He turns and hangs up his gun belt. I miss anything? She sets the gun aside, pulls the little girl into her lap. You see, these are all things that are happening in front of us. There's no backstory here. Mary Agnes, the Fitch brothers came through here last week, all three of them, starting shooting off their pistols and wrecking general havoc inside the saloon. Barney Muntz took care of it with some help from Whitey. Well, okay then. Of course, Barney did express a general wonderment, I think felt by all, as to where the damn sheriff was off to this time. He's the sheriff. He looks at her. She waves him off. It's continued because she is continuing to speak. Don't worry, your little secret's safe with me, though it's getting harder and harder to keep. What's a secret? They don't tell us. You know why? Because right now we don't need to know, or we will find out. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to cover, because those are the issues that I'm seeing in your scenes that you are turning in, is that the slug line includes information that it doesn't need to include. They're not always in caps. That your action descriptions are including exposition and backstory that is absolutely not necessary for the screenplay. Remember, the screenplay is what is being seen and heard, what is happening. Yes, it's true that in some cases you'll read action descriptions and you may read a line that does not exactly include something that we might actually know. For example, her hair is long, set off by the dark green eyes of a witch. A damn beautiful witch. Even covered with mud. He sits up. Okay. As the audience, how do we know that's what he's thinking? That she has the dark green eyes of a witch. A damn beautiful witch. Well, the character is beautiful. The character has green eyes. And the character... you can see the look on his face that he admires her looks, even covered with mud. And then he sits up. She looks back at him, her way of apologizing for giving him that wound. So she had shot him earlier, and so we can infer that the look that she gives him is her way of apologizing. But it's not necessarily something that is spoken or explained in any way. But we could feel it. We could see it. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it may not be exactly, when I say only write what you can hear and see, sometimes you're going to include a little this or a little of that to help the audience understand the motivation of the character in that moment. He squints into the field, studying the fence surrounding the pasture. A rail broken here and there. No man around here. This is the conclusion that he comes to and the conclusion that the audience comes to. But again, it's not explicitly stated. He turns back to the crowded paddock, now sees movement in the ground. But you notice these things are all in caps. Again, going back to what I said earlier, production elements. These are things that move the story forward. They're important to the narrative. So, like I was saying earlier, the things that I've noticed in your scenes is that you are putting too much backstory and exposition into your action descriptions. That's why they're called action descriptions. You are including information that does not belong in your scene headings. It's very simple. Your scene headings should only include, whether you're inside or outside, and abbreviated like this, where we are. Now, if it's kind of a complicated location, for example, one of you guys did a scene recently when you were talking about New York and a back alley, and that's fine. I don't know, I may not have pointed this out to you, but you would then say New York, then you would have back alley. So you want to go from general to more specific. Don't go out to in, not from in to out. and then a dash, and then what time of day it is. Now it could be day or night. It could be a specific time like 10 a.m. or whatever. But be careful with that, because if you put something like sunset, production wise, shooting at sunset or sun up or whatever is extremely hard to do. So be careful with that. Remember, this is to be produced. So if you've got day's pretty in general. If it's 10 a.m., why is it 10 a.m.? Is that an important time for the storyline? Okay. Oh, one more thing. I have for some of you who are interested in selling your scripts, I came across this really cool YouTube video, and I've watched a few of them. I did have my own presentation regarding pitches, but I really like hers better, and I especially like the idea of submitting your scripts to competitions. However, I want to warn you, script writing is rewriting. It is a constant revision. You are constantly revising. You may think you're done with it, your first draft, but you're not. You will probably have 40 drafts before you're finally done. You will put it aside, you will come back a week later and go, crap, what was that? Yeah. So make sure your script is polished before you send it off, because once you send it off, it is now in the hands of people who are going to read it and judge you based on that script. So put more than just your eyes on it. Let other people read it, or your classmates or whatever, and get feedback from people, because you are not going to be able to spit a script out in its first draft. And you definitely don't want to submit anything that isn't polished. Okay, that's all I got. So you guys let me know when you're going to be available for that cold read in 2 weeks. Look for the discussion board link for you to post your rough drafts, and be more cognizant of your format in your screenwriting, because I'm going to be a real stickler about that. That right now is the most important thing for you to learn, is the format. Okay, stay healthy. Talk to you later.